Alright everyone, welcome back to another Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes video with Fat Phil, and today we're going to be looking at Kyrotech. With the updated era system where Capital Games has come out and said, by the time you get to the end of the era, you should have enough resources that all of your characters will be level 65, which translates to Gear 12, which significantly helps us get over the Kyrotech bottleneck. A lot of players, I think, are still struggling with understanding how that's helpful, so we're going to explain that, but also just show you how much Kyrotech you can feasibly get in a month without really breaking the bank, and to a large extent, how that will help you transition your resources into other areas. I think one of the big problems with this game at times, particularly I think with Kyrotech and other resources, is just not taking into consideration all of the areas that you can obtain it, and then recognizing where you can kind of break away at times in order to balance out your acquisition and generic bottleneck. So, folks, if you can do me a huge favor, and please like and subscribe, comment down below. I would appreciate that. It does help this channel grow a lot. This update, we've been doing really good, trying to get good content out for you guys, so I hope we can continue. So let's get in here and let's focus on looking at some Kyrotech. Alright, so as I said, you're getting these era units at Gear 12. Now, I know a lot of players have sat there and said, this isn't actually helping me because I won't work on these characters. And again, we gave some examples, and I want to kind of give you maybe another way to look at this. Yes, for some of you, maybe these characters are not beneficial in the immediate sense. And to draw a real life comparison, because that's something I'm very passionate about, is taking some of the situations in this game and drawing them into the real world. Let's say that you went off to, college or university and you spent $100,000 in student loans. If upon graduation you were given two options, $100,000 to pay off your student loans or a $200,000 house, I think a lot of people would select the $100,000 to pay off their loans. But the smarter investment decision is to take the $200,000 house. One, interest rates on mortgages are terrible. They're the worst. But also because eventually you're going to think about long term, you need a place to live. So by getting the free place to live, that's double the amount of your loans, whatever money you would have put into that place to live, you can put back into your loans, pay them off faster. That's kind of what's happening with these characters. It's not, again, like I said, you're not getting more, you're just not having to spend as much. So the Kyrotech you would have spent here, you can invest in the characters that you're trying to catch up on. So that's kind of how this change is really benefiting you, that you don't have to spend as much in the future, so you don't need to be like saving as much of that. You can spend it on the stuff you need right now, and then eventually get over that bottleneck faster, get over that hurdle, and start to be able to spread those Kyrotech out a little bit more. So that's kind of my real world comparison for you guys. I hope that kind of makes sense. I would like to share with you all some, spreadsheets and numbers that I put together to help understand this concept. So I'm going to move the fat face over to the corner here, and we're going to pull up the screen capture. All right, so we're going to go to this locations tab. So this is my Kyrotech, problem/solution. There's a whole bunch of sources over here. We've got assault battles, the Peridia Patrol and Coven of Shadows events, daily login, TB stars, Zepho, Mandalore, territory battles, special missions, territory wars, node farming, grand arena currency, and then areas that we're not counting in this analysis up here. The episode pass and pass plus, the conquest pass and pass plus, marquee events, era battles, whatever else you can think of. If you look at up here, I've got a couple different things that, spell out, okay, what does each of these things represent? Again, for the territory battles in particular, 40 stars in Rise of the Empire, getting Zepho, Mandalore, additional, special missions completed, right? All those things kind of end up at a total right here of 1,600 Kyrotech per month. 1,600 Kyrotech per month. Your average character, your average marquee takes 400 Kyrotech. In this model up here, which I get more than this up here right now, you're looking at over 4 legacy characters that need Kyrotech a month that I'm obtaining. Many of you might look at this and say, well, Phil, I'm not in your situation. Like, I don't get that much. So let's just, take everything and divide it by 2. That's still 800 Kyrotech. That's still 2 full legacy characters based on all of these inputs up here. That's a lot of extra Kyrotech. That's a lot. I want to particularly look at the territory battle side of things, because this is where I feel a lot of guilds and a lot of players have some misconceptions about just how much Kyrotech is at stake. Now, the other thing to note is I'm not counting any guild event currency 3 for Kyrotech. We're only looking at guild event currency 2. And this is one of those moments for accounts, if we switch back to the game for a second. Once you get over that hurdle where you've gotten the Malevolence and Negotiator with your guild event currency 2, once you finish this off, your ability to obtain Kyrotech skyrockets, because you can just, transition very quickly, get a ton of it. Those are kind of some key moments in the game. For a lot of you that have purchased the light speed bundles for those characters, the amount of Kyrotech that you're going to be ahead of someone like myself is ridiculous. You might not see it right away, but I can tell you that it's ridiculous how much Kyrotech that you will be, like, quote unquote ahead on at a similar point in the game than I was. So I understand that for some of you that's not a right away thing, but that will happen. So just showing you all of these things in TB, your guild event currency 2, that's the crucial part for a lot of you. It's not so much the direct Kyrotech you get from some of these places as much as it is the guild event currency 2 that you can spend to earn said Kyrotech. So what we're going to do is we're going to switch over to this tab here where there's the special missions that you can earn guild event currency 2 on. There are 5 of them. You have the Jedi Knight Cal Kestis mission, the Saw Gerrera mission on Kashyyyk, the Clone Trooper mission on Zepho, the Bo-Katan Mandalore mission on Tatooine, and the Night Sister mission on Dathomir. So there's 5 different places where we can earn guild event currency 2 in territory battles on these special missions. For each character, what I've done is these are the teams that I use. Other people may use different compositions. These are the teams that I use. What I went in is I calculated the total amount of Kyrotech needed for each character. If you look at the note here for Jedi Knight Cal Kestis, this includes Baby Cal and Tarful. So this, 500 Kyrotech up here is including the 300 you need for Baby Cal and Tarful to get to Gear 12. The reason it doesn't include Seer Junda is because she's right next to him. We're calculating that here. Saw Gerrera's is calculated here, and Marin's is calculated here. So you get the idea that we're making sure we're crossing our T's, dotting our I's. Similarly with Bo-Katan Mandalore, we're including the Kyrotech for Keller and Beck and Paz Vizsla, but not for Beskar Mando and Grogu in her calculation since they're right here. So I did want to note that we are including all Kyrotech, even if the character isn't directly inside of that mission. Now, we have the total, and then we have what I call non-subsidized. So subsidized basically means it's been paid for, right? The non-subsidized Kyrotech is what's the additional Kyrotech we need to spend, taking into consideration any journey guide requirement. So for Seer, we're going to have to spend 300 Kyrotech to unlock Jedi Knight Cal Kestis. So it's only an extra 100 Kyrotech to go from Gear 12 to Gear 13, and then we can attempt her at the mission when they get to Relic 7. Which, by the way, for all of these missions, it's a Relic 7 requirement. So I also will say, I don't like when players complain that they need Kyrotech, but then complain that the missions are Relic 7. Which, I understand there's a lot of bottlenecks in the game right now, but if you're trying to solve one or the other, we've got to, okay, is signal data worse for you, or is Kyrotech worse for you? Which one do we feel is, more taxing? So we did that for each of these. If you come down to Kashyyyk, for Cassian, Kyle, and Captain Rex, all of their Kyrotech is subsidized in the journey guide. So we're only spending 100 extra for Saw Gerrera and 400 for Luthen. And then we're, everything else is covered via Journey Guide stuff. The Clone Trooper mission, it's 100 Kyrotech on 5s. He's the only one of these characters that is not required in the Journey Guide. So this is a very affordable mission in terms of total Kyrotech, and with only 100 of it being additional comparative to what you would do in the Journey Guide. Bo-Katan Mandalore, yeah, this sucks. It's a lot of Kyrotech. But only 500 of it isn't subsidized, which is the Kyrotech for Bo herself. Kind of treating this a bit like Pokemon, where it's a gotta catch 'em all situation. We want to collect everything, but if you want to actually, get her to this point, we gotta spend some. And then for the Night Sister mission down here, it's only 100 extra Kyrotech for Marin, as the rest of these characters are actually, it's even crazier. They're all Relic 7 requirements. For Ahsoka, we've got the Dead Boys, and for Baylan, Great Mothers, and Morgan. So once you take, and I think that's important, is I tried to be as, genuine as possible with this, not be, all right, well, it only costs an extra 600 Kyrotech to do Braca, or 500 here or 100 here. Like, I didn't feel like that was genuine to the analysis, but I also didn't want to ignore that you would build some of these characters anyways. So the conversation that you could maybe have with yourself at times is investing in some of these characters earlier benefits Kyrotech long term. Now, before we go up to the top and kind of share some more of the in-depth math, one big thing I want to make sure you understand. This return, the return for these things, is dependent on your guild. You yourself will probably never get will never earn enough guild event currency to get the return on these characters. Like, it's going to take so long. But when you extrapolate that over 50 players working together, it's a very fast turnaround. So let's get into some of the quick turnaround here for these characters. So right here, just in the center, is the guild event currency to cost for Kyrotech. You can get 975, it costs 975 guild event currency 2 to get 15 total pieces of Kyrotech, which comes out to 65 guild event currency 2 per Kyrotech. So in total, if you add up all of the total Kyrotech for these characters, add all this up, you get to 8,400 Kyrotech. The number of successful combat or special missions you need is 10,920. That is taking the total amount of Kyrotech you need, multiplied by the cost in guild event currency 2, and then divided by how much you can earn in each mission. So it's 10,000 total missions. If you think about in every territory battle, there's 250 potential missions. At an 80% success rate, if everybody attempts every mission, 80% success rate, it's going to take you a little bit over 2 years to earn back all of that Kyrotech just from the guild event currency 2. Now, for many of you players, I recognize that getting 200 attempts is crazy. We can adjust this any way you want, whether it's the 250, whether it's, hey, we only get, maybe 40% of those. We get 100 completions per TB. All right, now you get up to this number, right? So there's all different things you can do to tweak this to kind of get an accurate view of where you think your guild is. If you take into consideration the Kyrotech that is not subsidized via the Journey Guide, it's only 1,800. So then at that point, using those same calculations, you get down to roughly 6 months of special missions before you have made back all of the Kyrotech that you spent that wasn't required of you in the Journey Guide. So you could kind of look at those two things and start to kind of figure out that there's somewhere in between that's the sweet spot. But noticing, number one, always worth building Journey Guide characters. But number two, down here, this doesn't include any direct rewards from Zepho or Mandalore. So these two numbers here is just the guild event currency 2. If we come over here, you get 40 Kyrotech in Zepho, and you can do that twice a month. You get 100 Kyrotech in Mandalore, doing that twice a month. If you add these into the equation, it's going to take you a little bit over a year, with all those metrics up here, a little bit over a year to make back all of the Kyrotech that you would have spent. In the, for the non-subsidized, you're looking at a little bit over 3 months of territory battles before you've made all of that back. So you can see how quickly this stuff begins to get that you start paying these areas back. And let's just say we change this number here. Let's change this to like, 40%. So now you're at 54. This goes to 19 because of Zepho and Mandalore. And let's say you take away Mandalore, now you're at 35. So even with adjusting these areas, right, even with going through all of those things, you can still see how important this is and how impactful it is for you to get these Kyrotech. Yes, honey, I will help with the groceries. Give Daddy a minute, okay? Go upstairs and Daddy will be up right in a minute. Okay. Duty calls, guys.
Thank you, Big Dad.
So, with all of that said, guys, with the calculations here, you can see that territory battles is your answer to solving the Kyrotech bottleneck. What this can do for you moving forward then, knowing all these locations, you can start to adjust your farming accordingly to maybe say, I don't need to do my node farming. Maybe I don't need to do, my Grand Arena currency can go other places. Maybe some of my guild event currency too, maybe all of this doesn't need to go to Kyrotech and I can spend it elsewhere. There's some of those situations and instances where that can be very beneficial. The final thing I did want to cover is this special gear pack that crops up where you can spend 690 crystals and you can get a chance at either, it's a 50-50 chance of 25 or 50. Your shipment cost for Kyrotech is 28 pieces. If you get the 25 Kyrotech here, you saved 10 crystals. If you get 50, you saved 710. This is a very good investment decision in my personal opinion. And the way I normally did this when I was short on Kyrotech was I would go in and I would buy this. If I got the 50 Kyrotech, I was done. I normally didn't try to like double my luck, but that's just the way I am. If I got the 25, I would rip it again and hope I got the 50. And then you kind of, again, having enough, crystals, if you have a lot, maybe it's worth doing twice. Sometimes it has the purchase limit of 1, other times it doesn't. But I would normally try to do that twice just to try to get as much Kyrotech as humanly possible. One last note before we go with Kyrotech. I know that this may seem like a lot of endgame stuff and a lot of like, well, Phil, I'm not there yet. It takes time, but you can see that territory battles being as important as it is will help you progress through, will really help you get to all of the locations that you need and will allow your account to progress faster and faster. My final recommendation is when you look at Kyrotech in the game, think about Kyrotech holistically. Do not look at it as, okay, is it shock prods or is it just look total Kyrotech? Because no matter what, right, when you look at like the Kyrotech pieces here, for some reason that looks bugged. I don't know why that's really weird. Is this bugged? That's crazy. Does Zuckus not take the other pieces? Hold on. Someone tell me, is this legit? I might equip this just to save stuff. Hold on, I'm taking a screenshot of this. That's wild. We might need to look at that. I might have to do some research on that. Anyway, all of that said, I'm encouraging you to think of Kyrotech in total. Don't look at it as shock prods in this piece, just look in total. Because you're going to need both, so it's just adjusting to which one you're going to need more. I normally was more on the side of getting more shock prods because they're more common than the laptop piece is. But either way, if you look at it in total with each other, if you look at each one kind of together, you'll get a better idea of where you sit with Kyrotech. That's the end of the video, folks. Like, subscribe, comment down below. I love you all. May the force be with you, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers, my friends.